Conspiracy theories and misinformation. It's all around us, from aliens to human reptiles, vaccines having microchips in them, to who really blew up the Twin Towers. It's all out there and turbocharged by social media.
How easy is it to go down those rabbit holes of the internet?
I think it's extremely easy.
Is it dangerous?
Yes.
Do you think when someone is down the rabbit hole, they see what they want to see? Is that what it's like?
Definitely, like, confirmation bias is massive, and I think that's still a thing. And why the internet scares me so much, because if you are looking for confirmation of anything, you will find it.
There's a spectrum, right?
There is a spectrum, and I think there are the ludicrous conspiracies where the most gullible go to, and it really just takes their whole being, their whole life, and they won't believe anything else.
You can't beat lived experience, so I talked with 3 people who know.
Probably about 8 years ago, started following some ideas and information that, like, usually links that my friends would, like, send to me, like, have a read of this.
Yeah.
First couple of times I just have a quick, like, look through, not really get into it. And then when I'd see them in real life, we would discuss the stuff that was in these emails and all of the stuff like MK Ultra, which is very weird. They believe that there's the secret society that are kidnapping children and abusing them and turning them into super spies.
We'll call her Hine. She's a bit whakamā and is asked to not be identified.
So you believe that your friend was the reincarnation of Gandhi and Thomas Jefferson?
Yes, I think they call them star seeds, where people born now have been important people in the past, and they're all originally aliens, extraterrestrials.
Yeah. But did you believe it at the time?
Oh, I totally believed it.
Do you think you just got into it because a mate told you, or because of the internet, or what?
So yes, I was isolated. I was a stay-at-home mum living on a farm, didn't have access to my friends, and the few people I was talking to online are all into this, and they're all sharing this, and it helped with the loneliness and the isolation.
It seems like it doesn't matter whether you're rich, poor, Māori, Pacifica, Pākehā, it's across the board in terms of people going down the rabbit hole. Why is that?
Maybe they've lost their job, they've gone through a separation, they're a bit isolated, and maybe the loss of a loved one. Like, they genuinely are vulnerable when they start.
Okay, so, hello.
Oh, Lucy!
Hello. Jump off. You got cool eyes.
No, Lucy, you can't sit there. Hop off.
In Nelson, Izzy tells a similar story. She's been out of the hole for 2 years.
You've been down the rabbit hole before. What rabbit hole was that?
So it was shown to me by a friend, and it was an alternate theory of how civilization had been created and had a bit to do with the pyramids and different levels of consciousness, and Freemasonry was a big one I followed at that time also. I really became the focus of all my attention, to the point where the people that I had around me eventually, after a few months, said, "This has got to stop." And they actually took my laptop and everything off me and said, "You can't have them back until you realise that they're questions that you may never answer and that it can't consume you."
Yeah, so you were quite obsessive about it.
I was very obsessive. I wouldn't talk about anything else. I stopped doing business with anyone who wouldn't talk to me about it, and just drove everyone around me crazy.
How did your whānau take it?
I've always been one to gravitate to what everyone else isn't. So at the beginning, I think it was like, oh, okay, it's just Izzy doing a thing. And then as it got a bit more serious, there was a lot of concern. And when there was concern, I just went, oh, yous aren't believers, like, you'll see, kind of. And it ruptured a lot of relationships.
Did you try to reach out to any of your friends?
For help or about the theories? No,
help, I should say.
I don't think I needed it. I thought everyone else did. My mental state, though, at the time was not good. And I remember there being a period where I did think it was everyone else who was wrong, not me.
That us against the world kind of buzz.
Absolutely. Yeah. And when my friends stepped in, who were like my family at the time, they stepped in and helped me and saved my life, which they still like to remind me of, I was really angry at them. One day you'll see kind of, you don't know, like, I don't want to live in this, like, and it just, I look back now and I'm like, oh goodness, if I hadn't have listened to them, I wouldn't be here right now.
In Hamilton, Sir Kyle was into conspiracy theories long before the invention of the internet. And he's put a lot of thought into why conspiracy theories can take a hold in Te Ao Māori.
You know, as kids, as Māori kids, when you're growing up, you're on the marae, right? You might be 11, 12, and you got your Māori cousins who are like teenagers, and they tell you things like, oh, you can't go down by the urupa at night. And we're like, oh, why is that? And they say, oh, because he's a headless horseman that rides around there, and he likes to chase, people that hang around the urupa. So right there and then, at that age, you sort of buy into it, you believe it. So I guess being Māori, we kind of take stories and things like conspiracies as truth, especially if it's any anti-colonisation things.
When you were down the rabbit hole, did you encourage others to join you?
Oh yeah. I was telling everybody when I first got into it. I was every man and his dog that would listen. I'll tell them. Oh, did you know that this country is run by a secret society, and they're called the New World Order, and or the Illuminati, and they're controlling our whole way of life, but we just don't know it.
How far down the rabbit hole did you go?
Got really bad where I actually one point believed that some of these Illuminati were lizard people, And I had mates used to tell me to watch these certain interviews, and they're like, bro, did you see his eyes, bro? They blinked like a reptilian, bro, And I kind of believed it, and I was like, yeah, no, it did. But then as I sort of started to pull away from that scene years later, I thought, man, gee, I was gullible.
Did it affect your relationship with your whānau and friends?
I would wait until my children were in bed and asleep to go and look at this stuff. And I would be reading it by myself. And sometimes it would be like 1 a.m. before I'd put it down and go to sleep. So I would be sleep deprived. And it was really kind of scary content, like you just can't shut off properly.
When did that kind of realisation thing happen to you? Like, oh, wow, I was actually down a rabbit hole.
I really, really began to understand it at the beginning of 2020 when I re-entered and started my degree and realised how the world actually... I had no idea before. I dropped out of school at 15. Quite estranged from most of my family, didn't have any real role models around that taught me, the basics of life, how the government works. So it was definitely re-educating myself and learning how things really work. And still am on that journey, and I am grateful every day for that understanding and how that's helped me, especially when COVID hit and everything kind of keeps spiralling. It's helped me stay above board and know what is worth kind of believing in and what is also out of my scope.
When I went down the rabbit hole, so to speak, my life took on a different wairua. The more I got into it, the more that I started to feel a bit more depressed about myself, the more that I felt my wairua was getting darker. When your wairua becomes negative, you start feeling the effects of that negativity, depression, anxieties, paranoid. You're suspicious of everything, and it's actually not a nice life to live because you're in that mentality. You're forgetting about feeding your soul.
There aren't many of us who don't know someone who's been caught in a conspiracy, but what, if anything, can we do? Izzy, Sakayo and Hine hope that by telling their stories, all of us can get a better understanding.
Have you ever tried to reach out to anyone?
I have.
Yeah, and what was the response?
Personal attack.
Yeah.
She said that she thought if anybody would understand, I would. She couldn't believe that I no longer swallowed everything down without looking at it properly.
Did that make you sad or?
No, I understood. I
Yeah.
knew exactly where she was in the process, how deep she was, and that you can't get that person out at that stage. It's very much like a drug addiction, actually. You know, when a person is so deep into their addiction that they're selling all their property and they're stealing things
Yeah.
to sell to keep on feeding the addiction. It's like that.
When I was into it, you know, nobody could really tell me anything. But what I like to just say to those who are in the rabbit hole right now, you know, don't forget to breathe. I'm not going to judge the conspiracy world because, you know, there's still things that I come across that kind of resonate with me, but I can turn it on and off. I think once a conspiracy theorist, you're never truly out of it. I think you just pick and choose what you want to believe and allow into your existence.
Recovery is hard. I think that's another thing, that these people offer such a haven that there's no hard work for, you know, people who are falling down the hole to do. It's just easy, everything's easy. Well, recovery is not easy. Like, I fight every day to not fall down that hole again because my brain is wired for that kind of thought pattern. It'd be far easier to fall down the hole and be like, oh yes, so this is, you know, the government is crazy. That's easy. It's far harder to fight every day for reality.